All right, we are now recording. So thank you for joining us today to talk about taxes for international students. If you didn't hear me as you were logging into the webinar, we're going to be using the chat a lot. Hopefully you found that and you've used it a little bit. We also have a couple polls that we'll use as well today, but those will pop up later. My name is Andrea Pellegrini, and I run the Student Money Management Center for the entire University of Illinois system. So that includes Urbana, Chicago, and Springfield campuses. And I'm joined today by my colleagues, Mandy and Kathy with Gies College of Business. Mandy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks, Andrea. My name's Mandy Auld. I'm a senior instructor in the Gies College of Business. I teach various tax classes and I run the campus VITA program, which is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program.
Thank you so much, Mandy. And Kathy is monitoring the chat today. Kathy, do you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you're doing with Mandy?
Hi, I am working with Mandy to, help people get their taxes done for free at the Gies Vita site, and I will be the person on site. So I'm very excited about that and about this webinar series.
Thank you so much, Kathy. So collectively, the Get Savvy webinar team represents organizations across the state of Illinois, which rest on the ancestral lands of multiple Native nations, including the Peoria, Kaskaskia, Piankashaw, Wea, Miami, Niskuten, Ottawa, Sioux, Meskwaki, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Ojibwe, and Chickasha nations. And we have a responsibility to acknowledge these Native nations and work with them towards a more vibrant and inclusive society. So I mentioned something about those polls. So my little polling thing disappeared, but we're going to try to launch this demographics poll. This gives us a little information about who's joining us today, kind of your age range, your gender, etc., kind of your employment status, which will help us better address some of the common questions associated with different groups. So if you can answer that, and there's several questions, so just make sure to press submit when you're done answering all of them. It looks like about a quarter of you have already participated, which we appreciate. It looks like we have a lot of students and full-time employees as well as part-time employees. Both men and women on today, and pretty diverse in terms of race and ethnicity, it looks like. So I'm going to give you a couple more seconds to respond to that, and then we're going to continue moving forward with this particular webinar. All right, most of you are in the 25 to 34 age range, which is kind of what we expected based on the registration data that we pulled earlier today. All right, about 66% of you have participated. If you don't want to, that is fine. And so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. I'll share the results real quick so you can see who's joining us. You can see we are a very diverse group. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and we are going to move forward with this webinar. So Mandy, do you want to talk about the disclaimer, or did you want me to go over this?
I can do that.
Okay.
So are you ready for me to take over?
Go ahead,
All
Mandy.
right, thank you. So we're going to talk about a lot of tax information today. We're going to give some general information that will hopefully help you kind of go in the right direction with regard to your taxes. But we can't answer individual tax questions. So we something that's specific to you and your situation, we can maybe help put you to some resources, but we can't answer specific tax questions about your personal tax situation. Um, did that cover it? Good. All right. So today, in today's webinar, what we're going to do is just identify some tax issues that international students often face, discuss some of the common forms and tax forms and things that you might be interested in or that apply to you. We're going to talk about what tax benefits international students can get and which ones they cannot get. Talk a little bit about treaties and how that impacts different citizens' tax situation. And then we're going to point you to some resources that you can use to help you file your tax return. All right, just some basic reminders. If you didn't join us for the tax filing basics webinar, you might want to take a look at that. We're not going to recover that, but just some reminders. The tax filing year or cycle in this country is that the year starts January 1st and ends December 31st. So it's a calendar year for all individual taxpayers. So your tax year has just ended December 31st, 2024. And now you have until April 15th of 2025 to file the tax return for that calendar year. We're going to talk, or we did talk a little bit in our previous webinar about the need to pay your taxes throughout the year. So those that happens sometimes through withholding from a payer, but if not, you were required to make some quarterly payments. Those were due last April, June, and September, but there's another one and January 15th, which just passed. But whatever we talk about today, if you think that you might have a tax payment obligation, the sooner you pay that, the better. We've just missed that last deadline by a few days at this point. All right, so let's get started. Some basic information for anyone filing their tax return or needing to file a tax return is that you have to have what's called an ITIN. If you're not a U.S. citizen, it's called an individual tax identification number. Some non-citizens can also have social security numbers if they're approved for work in the U.S. You may already have an ITIN if you have a bank account here that was required for you to open your bank account. But if you don't, the first step to filing a tax return is going to be to get an ITIN number for yourself, your spouse, and any dependents. We're going to talk about whether or not you would be able to report any of those people on your tax return or not in this webinar. But the first step to completing your tax filing obligation is to have one of those ITIN numbers. The way to get an ITIN number is you have basically two options. You can do it by mail or you can do it in person. If you're going to apply by mail, it's going to require you to send things like your original passport to the IRS in Houston, Texas. So often people don't love this idea. So there are options for filing in person. The tax form that you would need to fill out is called Form W-7. That's regardless of whether you are filing by mail or in person. And then you will need also your completed tax return for this current filing year. If you're applying in order to file a tax return, you would need to have that tax return completed. You would just obviously not have the number to fill in yet. You would show that as pending at this point. And then all of these documents, and you can find a list of those things along with this Form W-7 on the IRS website. So if you want to file for an ITIN or request an ITIN in person, there are three options for doing that. The IRS offices, they're called Taxpayer Advocate Centers. There's one here in Champaign on, I believe, on Church Street. Those offices can issue ITINs. You need an appointment for that, so just make sure to make an appointment. The big office is in this area is in Springfield, where there's usually more availability for appointments for those sort of things. Certain VITA sites that we have a VITA site here called the Geese VITA site. Certain VITA sites offer ITIN services. You can go there and apply for an ITIN, but our site here just is not certified to do that. So you would need to look and find a VITA site that's certified. Both of those two options are free. You just go, the only downside is that it's sometimes a long wait or an appointment is required. The other option is what's called a certified acceptance agent. You can go to a certified acceptance agent to get your ITIN, but they'll charge a fee. It's not a big fee. I don't know exactly. It's based on the site, but there is In this, in Champaign-Urbana, there is a Jackson Hewitt Tax Practice Office that offers this service. If you're in a bigger city, if you're in Chicago, most of the big accounting firms offer this service, but there's a locator for this and for the VITA site with ITIN services, both on the IRS website. All right, just an overview. After you have your ITIN, or if you have your social security number and you're ready to go, filing a tax return is basically walking through this formula to calculate the amount of tax that you owe. So you're going to take your gross income, all of your sources of income that are taxable, minus any deductions that you're allowed, and that is going to get to your taxable income. And then you're going to take that taxable income times a certain tax rate that's dependent on your filing status. That will give you your tax liability. That's the amount that you need to pay. Unless you are eligible for tax credits are going to reduce the amount you need to pay, that tax liability, dollar for dollar, if you're eligible for any tax credits. And then you will give yourself credit for any payments you've already made. So this could again be through tax withholdings or through some quarterly payments that you made. And then whatever the balance is, if you have a positive balance, that means you owe more money. You would have to pay that now by April 15th. If you paid too much, if your balance of your tax liability minus what are called refundable tax credits, not all of them are refundable, and minus your prepayments. If that's a negative, that means you paid too much and you will get a refund of that amount now. So this is what we talked about in our prior webinar. You can take a look at that if you want more detail on those things. But today what we're going to talk about is when are those things kind of the same for international students and when are they maybe different? Again, we had the webinar about basics last week. You can watch the video recording of that. Andrea was just on that slide. But diving right in now to international students and what are the issues unique to you. The first thing that we need to talk about is what is your filing residency status? So this is not the same thing as your immigration status. This is not the same thing as your status as a resident or a non-resident for tuition purposes. It's not the same thing as your status as a resident or non-resident of Illinois. This is a very specific and unique determination, and the IRS distinguishes non-US citizens between two categories for tax filing. So if you are a US citizen, this is not an issue for you, but if you are not a US citizen, then you are either a resident alien or a non-resident alien. No one loves those terms. I apologize. It's just the verbiage that the IRS uses. And so we will use it, but that's where we're at. So if you're a US citizen, again, not an issue. If you are not a citizen, but you are a permanent legal resident, meaning you have a green card, you also don't have to worry about what I'm going to talk about next. This is just for those of you who are neither a citizen or a permanent legal resident. You have to determine, are you a resident alien or a non-resident alien? Why that's important is that resident aliens are going to file and pay taxes exactly the same as a US citizen would. So you're going to pay tax on all of your income, no matter where it's earned in the world. If you earn income in another country and pay tax to that other country, you will get a tax credit so that you're not paying double tax. But you are going to report and pay tax on all of your income, no matter where it's earned in the world. If you are a non-resident alien, then you are only going to pay tax on the income that you earned while you were in the US. So only US source income if you're a non-resident alien. And also, just from a practical standpoint, these two groups file different tax returns. A resident alien files the same tax return as any US citizen. A non-resident alien files a different tax form called Form 1040-NR. All right, so we've got a polling question here for you. I'll let Andrea pop that up. The question is, if you're a non-resident alien with no income sourced in the United States, do you have to file a tax return? True or false? You do not have to file a tax return is the statement. And the question is that true or is that false?
All right, I don't know if you can see, it is up now, the poll. We have about 40% of people have participated, and it's a mixed bag. Some are saying true, some are saying false. So I think we will all be interested to hear what Mandy thinks of this in a couple seconds. So we got 60% of people that have participated. I am going to wait a couple more seconds, but we're going to move pretty quickly. All right, can we get up to 75%? We're at 70%. I think everybody's done with the polling, and that's okay. So we're gonna end the poll, share the results real quick. So about 58% of you said this is true, and 42% said it was false. So I'll stop sharing, and it's back to the Mandy Show.
All right, well, that's a very close poll, and the answer is false, but it is a little bit of a tricky question. So the answer is false. You do not have to file a tax return if you have no income in the US, if you are a non-resident alien. But you do have to file this form called Form 8843. And 8843 is just a statement that is telling the IRS that you are here in the US and here's how many days during this year you were here, and you would report that also for all of your dependents. And the reason for that is that your status as a resident alien or a non-resident alien is dependent on the number of days that you are here. And some of those days you're going to count, and some of those days you're not going to count. So the answer to the poll is false. You don't have to file a tax return. You do not have to file Form 1040-NR, the tax return for a non-resident alien, but you do file this other form, Form 8843. I think that was just linked in the chat, so you can have a look at that. So why is it important how many days that you were in the US in a particular year? The reason is that your determination of, am I a resident alien or not a resident alien, a non-resident alien, is dependent on how many days that you are here. So someone becomes a resident alien as soon as they pass the substantial presence test. What that means is, again, you're going to file and pay taxes exactly like a US citizen would. You'll file Form 1040. You will pay tax on all of your income, no matter where it's earned in the world. You'll get a tax credit if you pay tax to other countries. The substantial presence test is met when you've been here physically present in the US for at least 183 days. And because the IRS makes things complicated, it's not just a straight 183 days. It is counted for the current year and the 2 previous years. You count all of the days present in the current year, a third of the days present in the previous tax year. So if we were doing this test for 2024 tax year, we would count all of our days present in 2024, 1/3 of the days that you were physically present in 2023, and 1/6 of the days that you were physically present in 2022. So most people, when they come to the US, particularly for school, they come in August and they stay until, where their degree is done. So the first year they're in the US, they would typically not be here for 183 days in that first year. But then in the second year, they've stayed and they're still here that second year, they would usually have passed this test. For people who come different times during the year, if you come early in the year, you're probably going to meet this test by the end of that current year. If you come late in the year, this is about 6 months that you need to have been here. And you would just do this test, and the year that you pass the test, then you become a resident alien for tax filing. So again, non-resident alien taxpayers are going to pay tax only on the income that they earn while they are here in the US. That means if you are a non-resident alien and you have a bank account in your home country, or you have investments in your home country, you wouldn't have to pay tax on the interest and dividends that you earn on those things. If you are a resident alien, you would. You would pay interest on all those things. Maybe you have rental income in your home country, or whatever that might be. Whether you pay tax on that in the US depends on your status. So one thing that makes it a little bit more complicated, again, remember I said, once you pass that substantial presence test, so someone who comes here typically will have passed that test once they're here for 6 months. So that might be the year they come, it might be the next year. But if you are here on a certain visa, then it gets a little more complicated, because we don't start counting those days right away. So if you are a student and you are here on a student visa, F, J, M, or Q, most of the time that's F, you will not start counting your days for that substantial presence test until the 6th year you are in the US. So for the first 5 years you are here, your days present are what we call exempt. That's what you're reporting when you file that Form 8843. You are telling the IRS that in 2024, I was here however many days, and because I'm here on an F1 visa, those days are exempt. So you would file that Form 8843 for your first 5 years that you're here in the US. And if you have any income while you're here, so let's say you have you're a student, you're here on an F1 visa, you came during 2023, and you have investments in your home country that are earning interest and dividends, and then here in the US, you worked on campus in the dining hall while you were here. You would not be a resident alien. You would be a non-resident alien, because a student on an F visa would not count their days as towards that substantial presence test until year 6. So you're right now in year 2. 2024 was year 2. And so you are a non-resident alien, even though you've been here more than a year at this point. So you're going to file Form 8843 and tell the IRS all those things. I was here however many days in 2023. I was here, all of 2024. You're going to report those days as exempt, and you're not going to start doing that substantial presence test yet. You will still need to file a tax return and pay tax on your income you earned while working in the dining hall, but you will not need to pay tax on your investment income that you have in your home country. If you are a teacher or a trainee on a J or Q visa, all of that is the same. The only difference is that you don't start counting your days. You'll start counting them in year 3 instead of year 6. And again, the Form 8843 is the form. It's just a couple page form that you're going to file every year to tell the IRS, hey, I was here in 2023, but my days are exempt. And I was here in 2024, but my days are exempt because I'm on one of these visa statuses. And then you'll do that until you are no longer exempt from counting your days, in which case you'll start doing that substantial presence test. And at the point you're here 183 days, you then become a resident alien. All right, so resident alien versus non-resident alien is important because it's going to tell you what tax form to file. Remember, resident aliens file regular Form 1040, just like US citizens do. Non-resident aliens are going to file Form 1040 NR instead, and then also Form 8843 to report those exempt days. It also determines which income you pay tax on. Resident alien pays tax on all of their income, no matter where they earn it. Non-resident alien pays tax only on income sourced in the US. But it also will determine whether or not you get certain tax benefits. So citizens of the US and resident aliens and permanent legal residents, so green card holders, all get all of the same tax benefits. So some of those, if you didn't watch the webinar last time, are that you get tax credits for having dependents, that you can use filing statuses that get you lower tax rates. There are different other tax credits and deductions that were all allowed. Those things are not always available to non-resident aliens. So what happens when you have a non-resident alien that's married to a US citizen or permanent legal resident, or also a resident alien, actually? What happens is that because you're married, and if you're both residents, citizens, whatever, you could file a return jointly and get some certain benefits. In this situation, if one of you qualifies for that and the other doesn't, you can make an election to treat the non-resident alien as a resident alien, meaning you can file a joint return together. You can get all of the tax benefits that a U.S. citizen would get, even though that one spouse does not meet and pass that substantial presence test, or maybe they've got exempt days. The downside of it is that both spouses, that non-resident alien who, if they were to have filed alone, would not have to pay tax on all of their income, now has to pay tax on all of their income, no matter where it's at in the world. So there is no one right answer. What's best for you will depend on your situation. If you want to do this, if you're going to do this, there's a special statement that you have to attach to your tax return saying this is what we're doing. All right, so when I say that resident aliens pay tax on all of their income and non-resident aliens pay tax only on their US source income, what do I mean? It really depends on what kind of income we're talking about. So the easiest one to think about is wages for performing services. If you are performing services and being paid for doing that while you're here on campus, that's clearly US source income. If you are getting paid and performing services while you are in your home country, that is not US source income. So let's say you have someone who came to this country for school and they came in August. So for the calendar year 2024, they had some income in their home country while they worked the first part of the year in their home country. Then they came here for school, and starting in August, they got a job working in one of our admissions offices, let's say, doing some office work, and they have wages while they're here. A non-resident alien would pay tax in their home country on the wages they earned the first part of the year while they were living in their home country, and they would pay tax in the US, possibly their home country. Every country's different, we don't know. But in the US for sure, on the income they earned while working in the admissions office here, but not on the income from their wages in their home country. Other types of income are not always as easy to determine where it's sourced. Dividends, they're considered to be sourced wherever the payer is incorporated. So we know companies do business all over the world, their offices all over the world. It's where are they actually incorporated that's going to determine where the source of that income is. Interest is actually sourced where your permanent residence is. So that's not always a clear-cut answer either, but wherever your residence is, that's considered the source of your interest, no matter where the bank is. Retirement income is wherever the services were performed. So in my tax practice years ago, I had international clients who had worked their career here on this campus, but when they retired, they moved back to their home country. They actually paid tax on their pension from the University of Illinois in the US, even though they hadn't lived here in 10, 15, 20 years. They were still paying tax to the US on that pension. Rents and royalties, those things that come from owning property, the source is wherever the property is physically located. And then if you're selling things, it's wherever that property was located. Scholarships and fellowships are a little interesting because it is wherever the grantor is from. So if you get a scholarship in your home country, then that is considered to be sourced in your home country. But if you get a scholarship from somewhere here in the US while you're here, then it's considered to be sourced here in the US. All right, so what tax benefits do non-resident aliens, which ones are they allowed and not allowed? We're going to talk about before we get started on that. If you are a resident alien and you're concerned about your tax filing obligation, really you should go watch the previous webinar because everything I said in that webinar applies to you. If you are a non-resident alien, there's some special things we need to talk about. All right, what tax benefits do non-resident aliens not get? One is that you cannot file as married filing jointly. Married couples in the US can file together jointly or separately, and oftentimes it's more beneficial to file jointly. But if you are a non-resident alien, you do not have that benefit of doing that. You each must file separately. Obviously, if you're not married, then you would file a single, just like a US citizen would. You generally cannot, a non-resident alien generally, and I'm going to use the word generally a lot because there are tax treaties with specific countries where things get different. We'll talk a little bit about that, but generally a non-resident alien cannot file as head of household. Head of household is a preferential filing status. It gets you some certain tax benefits. But if you're a non-resident alien, you cannot do that. All right. Non-resident aliens generally also cannot claim dependents. So dependents are in the most general, simple sense would be your children living with you, but it can be other people as well. But you get some certain tax benefits for having dependents. One, there is a tax credit that you get for every dependent that you have if you're able to claim them. Non-resident aliens cannot claim dependents or the benefits associated with them. There are some exceptions to this. Residents of Canada, Canada and Mexico can claim dependents, as can all residents of South Korea and students from India. So there are tax treaties that allow some residents of some countries, citizens of some countries to claim this. One of those would be South Korea and India. They actually have a treaty with the US that does allow them to claim the tax benefits of dependents. All right, another tax benefit that non-resident aliens generally cannot claim is the standard deduction and many of what we call itemized deductions. So the standard deduction is just a set amount per taxpayer, and that's based on your filing status that all US citizens and resident alien filers would get. But non-resident aliens do not qualify for that benefit. Itemized deductions are certain things, certain expenses that you might have that the IRS has said are eligible for tax deduction. For example, some medical expenses, some contributions to charitable organizations, some interest expense and taxes. Those are what we call itemized deductions. But US citizens and resident aliens would get to deduct some of those. Non-resident aliens cannot deduct a lot of those. So there are some exceptions. Students from India can use the standard deduction because of that treaty. So students from India have certain tax benefits. One is that they can claim dependents and get tax benefits for them. And another is that they can use the standard deduction. All non-resident aliens, regardless, can deduct a couple of things as itemized deductions. They can deduct state income taxes that they pay and charitable contributions if the charity is in the US. But unless you are a student from India, those are the only deductions that you can claim as a non-resident alien filer. Most tax credits are also not allowed for non-resident aliens. So we get, again, a credit for every dependent that you have. There's a credit, the amount depends on their age. There's something called the earned income tax credit, which gives a tax credit if your income is low. Those things are not allowed for non-resident aliens. The only tax credits that non-resident aliens can claim are, in some cases, the foreign tax credit. So that's a credit for paying tax in a foreign country. In some cases, these are pretty limited situations, but in some cases, you can claim a credit if you pay for daycare while you're here in the US. The reason that's limited is that both parents must be working or in school to claim that credit. And oftentimes, that's not possible, depending on your visa status and things like that. There are some non-residents that can claim this child tax credit, the credit for having a dependent that we talked about, but those are very limited. Again, that's residents of Canada, Mexico, South Korea, and students from India in some situations. So those are based that's because of some treaties that we have, but generally speaking, non-resident aliens have very few tax credits that they can claim. All right, so I've been talking a lot about treaties. We've talked about India. There are some countries that have treaties with the US. We're going to talk just about some of the common ones that impact international students here on this campus quite often, and in our Chicago and Springfield campuses as well. But there are treaties with a lot of different countries. And so if these don't apply to you, you might want to look into what are the treaty benefits in my country. So China and the US have a treaty that allows students from China that are here on student visas to be exempt from paying US tax on the first $5,000 of their wages each year. So if you're a student from China and you work in the dining hall or whatever it might be, as long as you don't make more than $5,000 while you're here, then you don't have to pay US tax on that. It also allows teachers, researchers, and others that are here on certain visas to exempt. They don't have to pay US tax on all, there's no dollar limit, but all of their research or teaching income for the first 3 years that they're here. So that's a special treaty with the US and China. India and the US also have a treaty. We talked about some of those benefits, like being able to claim dependents and use the standard deduction. But in addition to that, teachers and researchers from India are exempt from paying tax on their teaching and research income for 2 years. The difference here is that it doesn't just cut off after 2 years. So in China, residents of China, they get this exemption for 3 years, and then if they're here a 4th year, they would start paying tax. For the treaty with India, it's actually if you stay longer than 2 years, that entire exemption is lost. So you would have to go back and pay back taxes on your income that you didn't report for those 2 years if you ended up staying for a 3rd year, for example. All right, South Korea and the US also have a treaty. It allows for a 2-year exemption on teaching income, as long as it's expected to and actually does last less than 2 years. So again, if you are here a 3rd year, you would have to go back and pay some back taxes. And if you're a student from South Korea, you can exclude up to $2,000 of wages per year for 5 years. And if that is an OTP program that you're working in, It's actually $5,000. You only get that for 1 year though. If it's a US government sponsored program, it's $10,000 for 1 year. All right, so that's federal taxes. Again, if you, the first thing to do is to determine, do I need to file? Do I need to pay tax? That's going to be dependent on whether or not you are a resident alien or a non-resident alien, and where your income is being sourced from. The next thing to do would be to get an ITIN or a social security number issued to you if you do have a filing requirement. You would need that for your dependents if you're someone who gets to claim dependents. Again, that's just going to be students from India typically. And then you're going to look at any treaties that might be a benefit to you and determine what your benefits are there and whether or not you need to file, what forms to file, and that. The other thing that you need to be aware of, though, is that there is not only a federal income tax, but there is also a state income tax. So in Illinois, there is a state income tax. And so if you have income that must be reported for federal tax purposes, then you also must file a state income tax return. One thing that you need to know about filing taxes in Illinois is that Illinois taxes only income sourced in Illinois. So again, if you are someone who worked in your home country at the first part of the year, and then you worked here on campus the second part of the year, and we talked about how you would determine whether you would pay tax on that income in your home country or the US or both. All of that is it's a different consideration for Illinois. So for Illinois, you pay tax on income that you earn while you're in Illinois, and that's it. If you had income from somewhere else, as long as you're not a permanent resident here in Illinois, you wouldn't have to pay tax on that income in the other country. It's just your Illinois income. The way you calculate and pay tax in Illinois is that you start with whatever your federal adjusted gross income is, your taxable income for federal purposes. So if you walk through that whole process we've been talking about with regard to paying federal tax, and you determine that you don't have any income taxed in the US, then you don't need to worry about paying tax in Illinois either. You start with your federally taxed income. Illinois does not tax certain things. So Illinois does not tax retirement income. And then Illinois does allow some certain credits. There's a credit for paying real estate taxes in this state. There's a tax for buying classroom teaching supplies for teachers. That'd be elementary, junior high, and high school teachers, not college professors. But there are some certain tax credits that you get to reduce your tax. Illinois taxes all of your Illinois taxable income at a flat rate of 4.95%. And then obviously you would reduce that by any of those tax credits that you were able to claim. One thing that does get a little confusing is that Illinois residency is not the same as federal residency. And none of those are the same as your immigration status or your status as a resident in terms of tuition. All of those things are completely independent. For Illinois, you are an Illinois resident if you lived in Illinois all year. It doesn't matter if you are a US citizen. It doesn't matter if you are a resident alien, a non-resident alien. You are an Illinois resident if you lived in Illinois all year. If you lived in Illinois part of the year, so the example we've been talking about, you lived in your home country and then you came here in August, you would be a part year resident of Illinois. You are a non-resident of Illinois if you have a permanent residence or home not in Illinois. So when I say lived here all year, what I mean is your permanent home, your permanent residence is here in Illinois. It doesn't mean you have to be here forever. It doesn't mean you have to be intending to stay. It just means you've picked up your home and you've moved to Illinois. If you have a permanent residence elsewhere, then you are what's called a non-resident of Illinois. But again, that has nothing to do with whether you are a resident alien for federal purposes, a non-resident alien. It has only to do with what's happening with your actual residence. So for example, if you are a student and you came here to campus in August, and prior to that, your permanent home was in, let's say in Brazil. You lived in Brazil and you came here for school, and your program is a 1-year program. So you have maintained your apartment in Brazil, you are subleasing it to someone else. You're just going to stay here for a year and then you're going to go back. You've left most of your belongings there in Brazil, and you're planning to return. You would be a non-resident of Illinois. Your permanent residence is in Brazil. You're just here visiting. If you lived in Brazil until August and then you sold your home, or you let your lease expire and you packed up all of your belongings and you moved to Illinois, and you're going to be here for 1 year, and then you're going to move back to Brazil, but you've moved your entire household to Illinois for the 1 year, you are a resident of Illinois. You would be a part-year resident because part of the year you were in Brazil, part of the year here, but you are a resident. If you were here the entire year for 2025, you would be a resident. If you're here part of the year for the first semester and then you go back to Brazil, you'd be part year in both 2024 and 25. But it depends on, did you move your entire permanent residence or not? Other states have different rules. So some states work that way. Some states do not work that way. Every state is different. But generally speaking, if you earn money in a state, you're going to pay tax in that state. And whether or not you pay tax on all of your income in that state or not depends usually on, are you considered a resident of that state or not a resident of that state? There are actually some states in this country that don't have an income tax. So for example, Texas does not have an income tax. So if you lived part of the year in Texas and part of the year in Illinois, you wouldn't have to pay tax on the income you earned while you were in Texas for state tax purposes, but you would pay tax in Illinois on the income you earned in Illinois. All right, so how can you get help preparing taxes? A couple of things. The different campuses, the 3 different campuses, each offer access to a tax prep software. On the Urbana campus, that's called Glacier. On the Chicago and Springfield campuses, that's called Sprint Tax. That works pretty similar to things like TurboTax, if you've ever used that, where you go in and answer some questions and it helps you prepare your tax return. Those are available whether you are a resident alien or a non-resident alien, I believe. Andrea can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I honestly don't know, but we can look that up. The question that or things that we've been alerted to regarding Glacier and Sprint Tax across all of the campuses or universities is that students are confused when they get to the point in the software where you have the option to pay an additional fee and automatically file their state taxes wherever they need to file state taxes. And so it's similar to the way Free File works if you use the IRS free version of, I can't remember any of it. Tax Slayer, I think, is one, right? It's similar in that it's free for federal, but not for state. So that's where some people get confused. Say, well, I was supposed to have free access to file my taxes. And they don't realize that the free part is just for federal. And so you may have to pay a fee to file state.
Yes. And honestly, and we're going to talk a little bit about some more other resources, but what I would say to you is if you are using this to file your federal taxes, that paying the fee to automatically file the state taxes is probably the least expensive option you're going to find if you need help preparing your state taxes.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Yes. So sometimes we'll talk about it in a minute, but yes, this is an option for filing your federal taxes for free and your state taxes for a small fee. And also other options would be IRS Free File. You can find that on the IRS website. There are some income thresholds, but it's also software you can use to help file your taxes. The United Way, which is a not-for-profit organization in the US, also offers something called My Free Taxes. Again, it will help you file and pay if you have income under a certain threshold. And then there are what's called VITA sites. Stands for the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. You can find these all over the country. In Chicago, there's a program called Ladder Up. In Urbana, we have the Gies College of Business runs a program called just the Gies College of Business VITA program. You can go to those sites and get help filing your taxes for free as long as you qualify. There's an income threshold for that. But what I will say about the Gies College of Business VITA program is that we do not serve non-resident alien taxpayers. The reason for that is that this is a program run by students. Students are preparing the tax returns, and non-resident alien tax returns are very complicated, and the students aren't quite ready to do that yet. And so we can't unfortunately serve non-resident aliens, but if you're a resident alien, we can serve you. One change this year, last year, we piloted a program where we were helping non-resident aliens file their state tax return after they used the free service, the Glacier, to prepare their federal return. We're no longer going to be doing that this year. That pilot program there were some complications to that that are going to not allow us to continue with that. But if you're a resident alien, we can help file your tax return. All right, if you don't feel comfortable preparing your tax return on your own, you can use a paid tax professional. So we're providing just some resources about how to go about selecting that if you feel that you need to use a paid tax professional. But again, just like I said a minute ago, if you feel comfortable filing your federal tax return and all you need is that help with the state tax return, it's going to be way more cost effective to just pay the small fee through Glacier or Sprint Tax and just file your state tax return along with your federal tax return. That would be more economical than hiring a paid tax professional. But if you need more help, if you feel like you just need more assistance than what you can get just through those free programs, then you can select a paid tax professional. A few things to think about if you want to go that route is that one of the best ways to find someone is just referrals from family or friends or colleagues. If you work on campus here, you could just ask your colleagues, do you use anyone for tax filing? And they can usually direct you to someone. There are some online directories. For example, the AICPA is the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. Their website offers a Find a CPA search function. The Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulations is the licensing body for all Illinois CPAs, so they could help you find someone. You can also just use Google and find a tax professional in the local area. Depending on the complexity of your situation would determine, do you want to find that you can find anything from kiosks in Walmart to do your taxes all the way up to high-end CPA firms, and whether you need that higher end versus the lower end would just depend on how complex your situation is. What to look for when you found someone you think you want to use, then you should ask some questions. First one being, what are their credentials? Anyone qualified to prepare and sign tax returns should either be a certified public accountant or an enrolled agent. You might want to ask about their experience. How long have they been doing it? But more importantly, do they have experience with non-resident alien tax filings? Because sometimes those issues can be pretty complex. Ask around, see if they have a good reputation or not in the community. Your colleagues might have some information on that for you. Make sure that they're licensed in some way. All reputable CPAs should be licensed by the state of Illinois, enrolled in some professional organizations like the AICPA or the Illinois Society for Certified Public Accountants. And then you'll want to ask about their fees up front. So make sure you understand what you will be paying and how you will be paying that up front. Some things you might want to ask them. What are your qualifications? How do you keep up to date? Tax laws change all the time and they need to be up to date. All CPAs are required to complete, all licensed CPAs are required to complete 120 hours of continuing education a year. So if you're hiring a licensed CPA, you can be certain that they're keeping up with things. Ask about their experience with international student population and their fees and things like that before you get started. You can always ask for references, but you should also understand the process. What's your process? If I'm audited, are you going to help me? Will I have to pay additional fees for that? And you can ask all these questions before you contract with them for their services. In order to prepare taxes for compensation, someone must be a CPA or an enrolled agent. They have to, no one can sign as a paid tax preparer without being one of those two things. And anyone that you are paying to prepare your tax return should sign the tax return. So sometimes we find that international students will maybe find a friend to do this, or someone offers to do this for them. Just keep in mind that anyone who is being paid to prepare your tax return should have some credentials. All right, one other last bit of information that we wanted to touch upon is how to avoid tax fraud. So unfortunately, this is getting to be a bigger and bigger issue, and people are impersonating the IRS to access your information. That might be your bank information or your Social Security or ITIN number. So you need to be aware of some things. The first and foremost, the IRS will never call you on the phone. They will never email you or text you or reach out to you on social media. If the IRS wants to contact you, they will send you a letter in the mail. So if you get a text or a phone call saying this is the IRS, usually it comes with some sort of a scary threat of some sort. That is fake. That is fraudulent. So you can ignore those. The IRS is not going to send the police to get you. They're not going to send immigration to get you. They're not going to send anyone out to get you. If you're in trouble with the IRS to the point where there is enforcement needed in that regard, you will be very, very aware that that's going on through lots of letters and working directly with an IRS agent. But that is so rare. That's only the case of significant tax fraud. It's not going to happen to just a regular taxpayer filing and paying taxes. The IRS is never going to request that you send them credit card information, gift cards, wire payments, cryptocurrency. They will never request any of those things, particularly not through a phone call, email, or text. And then just another piece of advice, you should never provide your full Social Security number to any unverified source or ITIN number. It's okay to provide like the last 4 digits. A lot of times organizations that you're working with will need that just to verify that they have the right person, but never provide your full Social Security number, and also only provide those last 4 digits when it's someone you've initiated contact with them and they're just asking to verify, sort of like when you call the doctor's office and they ask for your birth date or your address or something like that. We're just trying to make sure that you're talking to the right person. All right, so in summary, what do you need to be doing? What are your takeaways? The first is know what your tax filing obligation is. Do you need to file anything or not? Next would be just to start looking for tools. How am I going to file those forms if I have to do that? What are my options? Again, those are going to depend on if you are a resident alien or a non-resident alien, whether you need to file in the state of Illinois or not, any other states you might need to. And then if you feel like your obligation is going to be a little bit more than you want to manage on your own, you should start looking for a paid tax professional to help you with that tax filing.
All right. Thank you, Mandy. For those of you that are still with us, thank you. This is being recorded, so if you need to head to class or you're running late, go ahead and get to that. We'll make this recording available once the captions are edited for accessibility. If you can complete our post-webinar survey, that helps us improve future webinars and kind of decide where to go with our next academic year of webinars. Our next webinar is on February 6th on Investing 101, Wealth Building Basics. The Securities and Exchange Commission is going to be co-presenting on that. So we are very thankful to have really good subject matter experts on that webinar. You can also watch previous webinars on YouTube. We already have last week's webinar up and captioned appropriately on our YouTube site, so you can watch that. Mandy provided a lot of really great information to all of us that have to file taxes. And again, I want to express appreciation for all of the collaborators on the Get Savvy, Grow Your Green Stuff webinar series. There's a lot of us. You've probably seen us working in the chat quite a bit, but this is a team effort. I know there were a lot of unique questions for Mandy, and I know that Kathy was keeping a list. So Kathy, do you want to ask Mandy some questions that we were seeing in the chat?
Yeah, I think we do have some. Let's start out with what happens if I have some minor mistake in my tax return?
Great question. So anytime there is a mistake in your tax return, if the IRS discovers that, they're going to send you a letter, and the letter is going to say, here's what we think you should have filed, and because you misreported, now you owe us this additional amount of tax. And they will probably also say, here are some interest and some penalties that you're going to have to pay. Those would be fractions of the tax you paid. So there'll be minor amounts if the mistake is minor. And if you agree, you look at it and you say, oh, yes, you're right. I made this mistake and I agree with you. Then you would just send them the additional payment, and that would be that. If you don't agree with them, then you can write a letter back saying, no, this is not correct. You have the wrong information. Give them the appropriate information, support sources of support if you have that. And then they would usually write you back saying, okay, great. We see this additional support and we agree with you, and the matter's resolved. If they don't, they'll write you back and say, no, we disagree. And you'll correspond back and forth either through letter or in person. You can make an appointment in person to talk to someone at the IRS office until you can come to a resolution.
Okay, wonderful. Do you know which documents are required as proof of status to be considered a resident alien by the IRS?
So, as with a lot of things, there is no proof documentation that you have to send to prove that. The IRS trusts us to report honestly on certain things. So, you're just going to report when you become a resident alien, you're just going to start reporting your tax return as if you're a resident alien and claiming benefits. If the IRS challenges, they don't think that you're doing it appropriately, they'll send you a letter challenging that. And then you would want to have proof to back up that's true. And usually what that is just stamps in your passport to show when you entered the country, when you exited the country, and that's usually all that would be required. But again, that's not required for most people. Most of the time, the IRS has no reason to question that you're reporting that accurately.
Great. Another question. I tried getting an IP PIN, but the IRS website says I'm not eligible. The IRS also says that requesting one by mail may take about 600 days. Are there any other options?
So an IP PIN, again, that's different from an ITIN number that we were talking about earlier. That's a completely different thing. But if you want to get an IP PIN, I honestly I'm not sure why the site says you're not eligible. Maybe I don't know if you haven't filed a tax return before, if you're not eligible, or what the issue might be. But for something like that, I would probably make an appointment to talk to the Taxpayer Advocate Center, the IRS office. Again, there's one on Church Street in Urbana. If you're really interested in talking to someone about that, you could do that, or you could call the IRS and ask for some more information. But as far as I know, the website and mail are the only ways to actually request an IP PIN.
Okay, great. We have a couple of questions about residency, of course. And so these are sort of examples that perhaps you can comment on, or maybe not. But what if someone lived in California for the summer period for an internship? Would they be a non-resident or a part-year resident for Illinois?
So there is no one factor that I can point to. There's a host of factors that you
Mhm.
look at when determining whether you're a resident of Illinois or not. And the essence of all of the factors are, did you pick up your entire household and move to Illinois? Or did you come here temporarily and your intent is to go back to a permanent residence somewhere else? So this does get a little tricky when you are someone who has been living with your parents. And at what point do you consider your permanent residence has switched to you and your apartment and that sort of thing? That gets pretty tricky. But if you are an independent person and you are moving your entire apartment from California to Illinois, you are a resident, part year if you're here part of the year, full year if you're here the whole year. If you have a permanent place of to live here on campus and you just went to California for a couple of months and you came back to your apartment here on campus, even if you've switched apartments during that time, you're probably still considered a resident of Illinois for the whole year.
All right. For the substantial presence of a J visa student who arrived in August of 2020, would they file their taxes this year as a resident alien, or should it be in 2026?
So a J visa that is a student. So typically students run F visas, and J visas we see most often. That J visas are for teachers, trainers, researchers. So it depends on which kind of J visa you mean. A student would be a non-resident for the first 5 years. So in this case, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. And then when they file their tax return for 2025, they would be a resident alien. A teacher trainer, which is what we usually see J visas as teacher trainer researchers, they would have been a non-resident alien in 2020 and 21, and then a resident alien starting in 2023. And when I say in 2023, I mean when they filed their 2023 tax return, that would have been a resident alien tax return, and that would have been that tax return they filed early in 24 or 23. So it gets a little confusing.
Yes, it definitely always gets a little confusing. Another one, and I don't know if you want to tackle this one or not, Mandy, but it's, can you please reiterate the tax benefits for a non-resident Indian graduate student who's on a fellowship for the first 3 years out of a 6-year stay. I'm not sure, we may be getting a little bit too much individual
Yeah,
here.
that's a little bit, that's a little specific, but just to reiterate that if you are an Indian student, you have some treaty benefits. And the treaty benefits are that you can, even as a non-resident alien, you can claim, you can deduct the standard deduction. You can get benefits for dependents that's different from most others. And then also there are some benefits that are allowed for not reporting all of your income. So you get to exempt 2 years worth of research and teaching income for 2 years. But if you're here longer than 2 years, then that is exemption you're not allowed to have that exemption at all. It's not that you get it for 2 years and then it disappears. It's that you can't have that exemption at all if you're here for more than 2 years.
So I just want to kick in here and say that the IRS documents are pretty well written in general compared to many government documents, I think. And so for some of these things where you really are in a specific situation, it might be more useful to go to the documents that pertain and kind of walk yourself through to see where you fall. So I put the publication 519 back in the chat to bring it to everybody's attention that's still on. There's another
Also,
question.
publication 901 is, so 519 is the publication that walks through, am I a resident alien, non-resident alien? What's that mean? But publication 901 carries the specifics about the tax treaties. So you would want to look at both.
Perfect. And there was a question about whether Glacier covers all countries' tax treaties, and I think we don't have that information for you, so you'll need to look at Glacier to
So
see what it says.
I will tell you, typically that the tax software that I have seen, the tax software is not going to do the work of knowing the treaty benefit for you and applying it. You actually have to know what your treaty benefits are, and then you have to make sure that you can get the system to do what you're doing. So it's not that you can plug things into Glacier and it's going to tell you what your treaty benefits are and how to do that. It's going to prepare your tax return when you input the appropriate things about what is and isn't taxable for you.
Okay, good to know. All right, I think that we have covered all the questions, and hopefully that helps people. And stay tuned for Andrea's email, which will have a link to this recording and resources as well.
I'd also like to reiterate that we are very blessed to have Mandy Alt here and our subject matter expert. It's very hard to dance the line between advice and education, and Mandy's done so beautifully in a way that I couldn't have done on my own. We got a couple direct messages that are too specific for us to answer. It crosses the line to advice. And so these publications and places to go is your best bet to be informed when you're filing your taxes yourself, or when you're employing someone and knowing what questions to ask the professional who's filing on your behalf, because you're the one that needs to be your own advocate. We can do a lot to provide education and knowledge, but when it crosses a line to advice, it's against university policy. And so we have to comply with that.
And also, just to add to that, you wouldn't want anyone to answer your tax questions without sitting with you and doing a complete interview of what does your whole tax picture look like. And so that's one of the reasons why we don't provide specific advice, is because I may not have all the information that I need to really assess the situation without sitting with you and looking at your entire tax picture. And you shouldn't hire someone that is willing to do that either. So you want to make sure that you're giving them the full picture and that they're looking at everything before they give you any specific advice.
Thank you for clarifying that, Mandy. I agree. It's really hard for anyone, be it a tax professional or a financial planner, to give you sound advice without having a full picture of your financial situation or tax situation for tax professionals. But hopefully that has addressed a lot of questions, or at least pointed people in the right direction. We're going to edit the captions for this recording and post it on YouTube, but we will also send it directly to anyone that registered for this event today. But thank you for joining us, and please have an excellent rest of your day and stay warm since it's still snowing, at least in Urbana-Champaign. So thank you again for joining us. Have a wonderful day.